Rob, congratulations, of course, for an incredible victory by you tonight. You've been working so hard to get to this moment. I imagine you haven't had much time to sit down and reflect yet, but can you just tell us what the emotions are like having finally earned this belt?
It's pretty good to start with. It's an accumulation of a lot of effort from a lot of different parties. I have the best team in the world. I've said that every fight, and I truly mean it. Henry Perez, Alex Prates, and Fabricio Whittaker. Those three guys you see in every fight, and they're always with me. They're very smart. They got me through this fight. This fight was very hard for me, but I have a lot of team back home that don't get a lot of credit and don't manage to get over here with Justin Feschel, Justin Lang, Stu McKinnon. Those boys really look after me, and there's I have the best team in the world. I've said it before.
After the first 2 rounds of the fight, all 3 judges had you down 2 rounds to none. I wonder what you were thinking at that point. I mean, obviously you never go into a fight wanting to lose rounds, but did you realize that might be a possibility against a guy like Yoel, but you could capitalize late on a guy that tends to fade? Or, were you frustrated by what had happened in the first 2 rounds?
In the first round, he kicked me leg pretty hard. And that kind of put a blocker in the way of my game plan. And the game plan was always to pepper him, to hurt him, to poke him away, and then in the later rounds start to capitalise on that constant damage. But it put my game plan back a little bit for the first 2 rounds. I had to concede that, and I had to play it a bit safer than usual. But in the end, it came around. Great cornering from my team. They really got me through this one.
We obviously saw the knee being addressed there. Do you know anything about the extent of the damage yet? I mean, certainly you haven't had full testing on it yet, but I mean, do you have an idea what might be wrong and kind of what you're looking at?
In my expertise, it's sore.
Well done. And last question I have for you. I mean, anytime somebody wins a belt, the first thing we ask them is, what's next? What's going to happen? We know what's next for you. It's Michael Bisping. I wonder what you thought. I mean, Michael Bisping is Michael Bisping. He's been that way for a long time. But what did you think about the exchange tonight and kind of the way he addressed you? And what did you think about the whole process?
Michael, you said it best yourself. Michael Bisping is Michael Bisping. I'm the type of fighter that goes into every fight with no ill will towards any of my opponents. I'm an athlete first and foremost, and we love the sport. I actually respect Michael Bisping. I respect him as the champion, even though he's injured and on the bench, and that's why there's an interim champ. I respect him. I really do. I have a lot of respect for him. But we're going to touch gloves now. It's fate. We have to fight now, and when we do, there's going to be no mercy.
Rob. Hey, first of all, congratulations. I'm just wondering, just on Michael Bisping, obviously the lead-up between you and Yoel was one of very much a mutual respect between the two of you. That's probably not going to be the case with Michael Bisping. I was just wondering, how will that affect your preparation at all?
I don't know. I haven't got any bad vibes from Michael. He hasn't done anything crazy to try and get in my face. I think he respects me as well. He is who he is, and he's going to do what he's going to do. And, I'm just going to be me. I go into the fight with the same amount of respect I have for every athlete, and I'm going to be me in that fight. I'm going to be me on the media, outside the fight. I'm going to be me, and he can work with that.
And Dana said before there's a possibility that fight could take place in Australia. I know you said before that you'll fight anyone, anywhere, but would that make it a little bit extra special if you do get that shot and it is back home?
Oh, of course, mate. Who doesn't like fighting at home? You know what I mean? Having it on your backyard is great. Great for me. It's great for all my support. I'd love to bring the fight back to Australia. They would love it.
And what do you think your win tonight does for the sport back home?
I have a lot of support from the Australian crowd back home. I know this, and I'm blessed to be in this position. Every time I walk out into that octagon, I feel like I'm representing my countries, Australia and New Zealand. Mate, it's the highest honour and highest privilege. I try to conduct myself in a good manner outside the octagon as well as inside the octagon, and try to be, a champion needs to act like a champion, and I can only hope I feel those shoes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Hey Robert, right over here. Earlier this year, they announced that it was going to be Michael Bisping and George St. Pierre. Now here you are here with the title yourself. Just talk about, at the beginning of the year, what you were feeling when you saw that, the division was getting log jammed, and here you were winning these fights, but it didn't seem like you'd get a title shot.
Yeah, at that point in my career, I think people were still thinking I was a sleeper. Yeah. I think people were definitely underrating me a bit, and that's fine. I can only be me. You know, I fly a little bit under the radar, and that's fine. I let every one of my fights, I let my actions speak louder than my words, and I hope tonight was another demonstration of that. But definitely earlier in the year, there was a logjam in the division. You know, there was nowhere to go. There was no reason to fight. There was no way to work up. You know, everyone has a goal of being the champion or being the best ever, and it's hard to do that when the champ is tied up with another opponent that's not even in the division. So that was hard. That was a hard time. But then with the interim belt and with the fight with Yoel Romero, everything starts flowing again. Even the fighters below me get a chance now to fight their way up again, and you know, it's a great time to be a middleweight.
And you were a product of the Ultimate Fighter. You won the Ultimate Fighter. Did you carry that with you tonight? You know, into this, just for all those guys on that show, and just being someone that was a success from the Ultimate Fighter.
I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
That's so long ago. I can barely remember yesterday, to be honest. Like, that was a long time ago. More importantly than anything, every time I step into that octagon, I feel like I'm representing my nations. Yeah. And, I want to be a good role model to young upcoming athletes. And, I want to be a role model just to men in general.
And that kind of gets to my next question. How much do you think this win is going to impact, more Aussies like yourself, trying to, get into the sport and, sort of motivate them because now they have a role model in you as the champion?
100%. I got here training at home with my teams at home. I do all my training out of Sydney. It's a bit of an urban myth that you need to travel to these major camps to get all their work done. There's a lot of other fighters now doing it and getting the spotlight they deserve. But I do all my training in Sydney, and I have the best team in the world, and I've said that, and now I've proved that. So, for the Australian crowd at home, it can only benefit them. We have the talent, we have the potential at home to do what we need to do. And, I hope this just makes the sport grow.
And last question for you. We know that Bisping is next. Are you still, though, a little bit worried that maybe St. Pierre somehow gets in there and gets that fight with Bisping, or is that completely off your mind at this point?
I didn't even give it a thought, mate. At this point in time, I'm pretty sure me and Bisping are fated to fight. We were supposed to fight another time, and then, it's like snakes and ladders. I had to fight a lot of dudes to get back into that range. But now here I am again, and here we are again. We're going to fight. What Bisping does, who he fights, that's his own business. I'm taking everything one fight at a time. I'm worrying about me. I've got the best team around me. They make smart decisions with them, and that's where we'll go from there.
Robert, to your left. One question about the last 90 seconds or so of the fight. The judges had it 2 rounds apiece. There was that point where Romero goes to the ground. When he was out here a little while ago, he actually said he would need to go back and look at tape and see exactly what happened, if he fell, whatever. I wanted to ask your thoughts about that moment, what your read was on that situation, how he ended up on the mat, and then also following him to the ground. You had success on the feet, but obviously you locked down the win in that last 90 seconds. Was that a cognitive thought in your head at that point, or did you even realize it at the time?
Mate, that's Australian wrestling for you. And that's, I think we got there in the scramble, and I had a really dominant position. I felt comfortable in that position to do damage and to control the fight. It was definitely a favourable position for me. I'm not going to give up a position like that for no reason. So I definitely thought, I'm in a strong position. Let's stay here and let's try to elbow the hell out of him.
Did you have any thought that this could be the fight right here? Did it feel as close to you as it might have been at that point?
I could hear my corners. My corners were yelling at the time. But, in the fight, timing is hard. Finding timing and trying to understand how soon or how much. I don't fight like that. That's not how I fight. I don't fight calculated too much. I go in there and I do my thing, looking for the finish from the first minute to the last minute. And I was trying to do that in that minute as well.
Robert, right in front. Congratulations. First thing I want to ask you is, last week Manny Pacquiao, a great legend, loses to Jeff Horn in Australia. So Jeff Horn wins the title. You come back and do this. I mean, did you take anything from that fight? Did you see that fight? Do you know Jeff at all? And was there anything that you could take from his success over a legend like Pacquiao that kind of give you a little inspiration?
It must be those Aussie shovels, huh? No, but all props to Jeff Horn. He put his heart out on the line and fought a really good fight, a hard fight. And I hope I did the same tonight. I went out there, I put my heart on the line as well. We dig deep, we train hard, and we get the job done.
I guess when you see that, does it make it more real for you? Like, hey, he was a 10-1 underdog or whatever, and he comes back and wins. Does it make it real? Hey, if I follow my game plan, if I do what my coaches told me to do, this is real. I can win this. It's like, did it feel more tangible when you saw that at all?
To be honest, mate, I was fighting Yoel Romero. There was not a second of attention or focus I could deviate for him. Every thought of every day went into fighting Yoel Romero. That was, I was preparing for a war with one of the most dangerous dudes in the world, and I don't have time to think about any other fight, or any other fight. Unfortunately, I stayed in the media loop, and some of my coaching team told me about the results, but mate, I had all systems go on Yoel Romero.
And I just want to ask you about the pain in your leg when you were throwing a lot of kicks, and when you're bracing off that. I mean, how much did it hurt? Did you actively feel it, or was it your adrenaline going? You didn't feel it till later.
The first 2 rounds were pretty rough. You'll notice I don't throw any left kicks, so it was rough. But I think this was a really good fight for me at this time in my career. I'm young enough to make adjustments. I had a hard fight. I had trials I had to get through, and I can only come out of this stronger. I'm going to go home like nothing's changed. I'm going to get back into the program and just plug away so that the next time you see me step into the octagon, it's a better Robert Whittaker.
Hey, Robert, to your left. A little bit back further. There you go. I may have heard you incorrectly, so please correct me if I'm wrong on this. It was loud in the arena. Did you say that you had suffered the injury in camp and that you thought it was 100? You said something about it being 100% tonight, but then,
mate, I'm not too sure. Like, even if it could have been absolutely perfect, but he stomped it so hard. Like, I could have had the absolute pristine knee, and then he stomped it, and then it wasn't so pristine. So. If it was good, it wasn't after that.
Okay, but you did do something to your left knee during the training camp?
Yeah, every fighter has to train with niggly injuries. I had niggly injuries coming into the fight. I thought they were 100% until Yoel Romero stomped on it.
So what does that feel like in the first round of your title fight? You had this injury that you thought was good, and then it wasn't. I mean, was there any sense of panic even initially, at least initially, when that happened?
It's kind of why I give a lot of credit of this fight to my corners and my coaching staff, because it was there. In the first and second rounds, it was there. It was hard to ignore because it was fresh. The injury was fresh, and it hurt. And with the adrenaline running in a fight, for something to hurt, it's injured. So. But my corners, I have, like I said 100 times, I have the best team in the world, and they gave me precise answers. They gave me the cool and calm, collected focus that I needed, and I drew from that to really get over that little hill in this fight.
And I know this is kind of asking you for a detailed answer on something you just don't know about yet, but are you concerned about the knee right now? Do you feel like it could, prevent you from getting back in the gym when you want it to be, or are you pretty certain you're not concerned sitting out there?
Mate, I could lose my leg and one of my coaches would still make me train. Trust me, I'll be training just fine.
Hey, Robert, congratulations. Just had a question about your hand, because you thought that you had injured it after the Jacare fight. Yeah. And I know this was a big opportunity. How does it feel after the fight tonight?
My hands?
Yeah.
They're a little sore. That's the thing with throwing them at people.
Sure.
But I have a really good rehab system back home. I have a really good coaching staff, and we make sure that we train our out season like rehab as much as the in season.
But you don't think that you re-injured it or broke it or anything like that?
Not my hands at this stage, no.
Okay. And would November seem like too soon for you, considering you fought in April and now in July, and that would be in 4 months? Does that seem like it would be too soon to come back?
I haven't given it much thought, to be honest. Like, this is all real fresh. I said to a lot of interviews before the fight that my calendar year really literally ends before I fight Romero. And the problem with that is that I'm not prepared for any answers afterwards. So looking at things, I have a bunch of little niggly injuries I have to get over. And the 4 month span seems pretty short to get over it, especially with my knee impacting the fight the way it did. So I'm going to have to go home, see the doctors, see what they say, and get a proper medical opinion before I can make any other decisions.
And just one more. Sometimes in the past, we've seen people win the interim title and not even want to wear it. They want to wait for the real belt, the official belt, if you will. How do you feel about that belt? We've seen other people, like Conor recently, say, this is the belt, I'm the champion. Where do you fall as far as the interim belt is concerned?
Mate, I had to fight a 5-round war with Yoel Romero. I think if you fight a 5-round war with Yoel Romero, you deserve a medal of your own. Because that dude is an absolute, he's one of the most dangerous people on the planet. No one wants to fight him, and for good reason. So I worked hard for that belt, for that bit of shiny metal there. And, that's what that is a symbol of, that I am now the #1 contender while the current champ is on the bench. I'm filling his seat at the moment. I'm taking on the head honchos, I'm taking on those killers, and then I'm taking on the responsibility of being champion.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys.